College football is a sport of attrition, and we saw it this weekend with multiple teams in the top 25 losing. This whole season, no one has been safe if you're in the top 25. These teams keep losing to unranked opponents or teams in the top 25 themselves pitted against each other. But there were also some other teams that were struggling to come out with a win this weekend as well, even if they didn't lose. But outside of just this weekend, the whole season really has been, can you stay healthy? Can you stave off these upsets? Because for some teams, they just were not able. Welcome to another episode of College Football Under Review. We've got our Week 11 recap going. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already yet. It helps us know that you enjoy the content, and it helps us out. But this weekend, 5 of the top 25 teams go down. The ACC is looking like an absolute dumpster fire of a conference, and many top 25 teams this weekend really had an okay performance or just straight up scares. And then speaking on Indiana being one of those teams that had the scare, my question is Indiana good or great after how they were able to finish the game and come back and win against Penn State? And then BYU, they got exposed this weekend by Texas Tech, but I'm just going to say it. I called BYU were frauds the whole season. They got me that 1 week against Utah, but Texas Tech finally helped prove my point that, yes, BYU are frauds. But let's take college football under review. And our top 4 games of the week. Number 8, Texas Tech beats number 7 BYU 27-29. And BYU really fell victim to one of the worst things that could happen to you in college football. People saying that you are frauds, people saying that you're just not good of a team, even though your record says otherwise. And what did they do? They played really bad, and they showed up like they were frauds. They did terrible on third downs, going 3 for 14. And their fourth down efficiency was about the same, going for 1 for 3. Texas Tech completely just manhandled them in their offense and defense. The Texas Tech defense looked amazing yesterday. And that one Rodriguez, the linebacker, he had himself a day too. But Texas Tech completely just dominating BYU in total yards, getting 368 just to BYU's 255. So outgaining them by over 100. It's crazy. Though Bear Brockmeyer, he played good. He just made one or too many mistakes, aka he could not get those third down conversions. He had 1 interception on the game, and he was not that great in passing. Still pretty good, but better than Texas Tech, because Texas Tech could not get anything going on the pass, just almost going about 50% in pass completions. But what really shined for Texas Tech was the run game. They were able to get 149 yards and really just allowed them to control the game, not in just time of possession, because that was about even, but really just in the physicality of the game. They were able to manhandle BYU in this game. And BYU as well, when we're looking at stats, they had 3 turnovers to Texas Tech's 0. Anytime you lose the turnover battle by that amount, it's not going to look good for you. It's not going to bode well for the final score either. But what this is really interesting, and what this does with the Texas Tech win, is it opens up the Big 12 conference again in a wide margin, because no one is undefeated anymore in that conference. There are a lot of teams with 1-loss conference games. So it'll be interesting to see how this conference goes down the stretch. But Texas Tech beating BYU, beating them 29-7. And then our next game, number 3, Texas A&M beats number 22, Missouri, 38-17. This was a just Texas A&M clobbering, just like it was for Texas Tech against BYU. But the best thing for Texas A&M fans is that they now are 9-0. And you may say, yeah, we all knew they were going to be 9-0. But this fan base has been stuck the last 4 years having 8-4 seasons. So this was really the game to be like, can we do it? Can we do it? And they did. They were able to get over their curse that they supposedly have. And Mike Elko continues to do what he's done all season. Lead a dominant and physical Texas A&M team with a great defense. And you may say, well, how good was the defense? Well, it limited Missouri to only 77 passing yards. And yes, Missouri came in with a freshman quarterback, but he was touted to actually be a good player. But I think the Texas A&M defense was just too much for them, especially on third down conversions. Missouri only getting 5 of 13 on their third down conversion efficiency. And along with Missouri's passing, they only completed 7 out of 22 passes, which is just terrible. And Texas A&M with Marcel Reed had a clinic today, getting over 221 pass yards, getting almost only missing 9 passes out of 29, and no interceptions for him on the day. What continues to be a great aspect of this Missouri team is their rushing. They were able to get 207 rushing yards in this game, but the same thing has plagued this Missouri team that has been with them since Eli Drinkwitz has been there, and it's his record against ranked SEC opponents. He cannot get over this hump whenever it comes to these teams. He can beat all the other teams if you're unranked in the SEC. There is Missouri Tigers to a 10-win season, but you can't continue to lose to these good SEC teams and expect to make the playoffs. I think that they are now out of the playoff race. Another long list of teams that are out of the playoff race, and some of them, if you're in the ACC, are back in it, which is wild, and we'll discuss that later. But yeah, no, Texas A&M, they continue to be the real deal. They continue to be everything this program should be in this new NIL era. You're in Texas. You've got one of the largest stadiums in the country. You've got one of the most rabid fan bases, and I think it's all culminating together under Mike Elko. So Texas A&M beats number 3 Texas A&M beats number 22 Missouri 38-17. And then one of the many scares that we talked about at the beginning of this episode is number 9 Oregon barely winning off of a game-winning go-ahead field goal to beat number 20 Iowa 18-16. I saw this and I was like, I thought Iowa scored a touchdown late with about, I think, 46 seconds left, something like that. And I was like, oh, sweet, Oregon lost. That's another correct pick for me. Nope. Oregon and Dante Moore drove right down the field in a matter of 40 seconds and was able to get a game-winning field goal to not lose to this Iowa team that has showed up when they are at home, and they have showed up with a great defense. And their defense was able to limit Oregon to only 3 converted third downs out of 10. So 30% on third downs, but they weren't able to stop the dynamic offense that Oregon has been known to have, I feel like, in these last couple of years, especially with Dan Lanning, as Oregon was able to get 373 total yards in this game. And majority of it came from the rushing attack for Oregon, because what's weird is a lot of times you see teams go into a game and they say, this is their strength. We're not going to be able to handle that, so let's focus on the weaknesses that they have or the standard that they have. Well, Oregon just came in and said, oh, Iowa, you've got a great run defense. No, you don't. And they just continued to honestly challenge Iowa's strength, which is their run defense, and they were able to outrush them by 161 yards and getting 261 on the day compared to Iowa's 101. It was just weird how they were able to do that. And it showed us that Oregon was a complete team. It wasn't just a Dante Moore-led team in this game. Dante Moore, yes, drove them down the field to win, but he wasn't the key piece of winning this game. It was the rushing attack and the field goal to win the game. It's always nervous when you put it on the kicker's foot, but in this instance, the kicker was able to make it. But Iowa, overall, they played like a number 20 team in the nation. I think the College Football Playoff Committee got this team right. They picked this team perfectly because this number 20 team ultimately almost won, but they've done this against so many other good teams. They had a close game against Indiana, who we'll get to Indiana later again in this episode. But Iowa has continued to show up with a good defense. I just think that their offense is a couple steps away from truly being dominant. But outside of that, this was a big win that Oregon needed, not only in showing that they have the grit and determination to win when the chips are not in their favor, but also to show that we are a complete team and we now have a top 20 win under our belt, or top 25 win under our belt. So number 9 Oregon beats number 20 Iowa 18-16. And then our last game under review, the one we're going to go into detail, Navy gets destroyed by number 10 Notre Dame 49-10. Notre Dame wins this. This game is about how it goes every year, and especially was the same as it went last year. Navy was coming into this game looking like a dominant team, a team that could go to the playoffs, a team that could give Notre Dame a little trouble on their schedule. Well, that was the complete opposite of this game. Notre Dame gets over 500 total yards, and Navy only getting 228. They are over doubling the Navy total yards. Just sad. Navy, they only had 22 yards passing, which they usually don't throw that much, but come on, 22 yards. The Wisconsin punter had more passing yards than Navy in this game. But CJ Carr and Notre Dame continue to elevate over the season. At the beginning of the season, they lost 2 close games against top 25 teams. One of them, Texas A&M, that loss is maturing very well. That Miami game, not so much, but Miami is still ranked. Notre Dame needed this dominant win. They need to start winning these games like this and in this fashion, because if they don't, it's going to chip away at their shiny armor that the committee likes to give them. But with all these other teams losing like they are, especially this weekend, Notre Dame continues to inch and sneakily inch their way towards the college football playoff. Not just discussion, but almost cement themselves as a team. So I think going down the stretch for Notre Dame, they need to continue to have dominant games like this for no one to have a doubt or question on whether or not they should be in the playoff, because it seems like all these other teams are shooting themselves in the foot, allowing Notre Dame to walk into the playoff. And this 12-team playoff, I think everyone knew it. It was built for Notre Dame, and we're starting to see exactly what a Notre Dame season looks like, even if they lose 2 games to ranked opponents. They still have to play Pitt next week, which will be very interesting at Pitt. I think that is the last game on their schedule that really could be the game that gets them in or out of the playoffs. But let's go to our notable Week 11 games that we have under review. Tulane beats Memphis 38-32. Tulane came out of this just kickoff firing on all cylinders. They really gave it to Memphis this weekend. Tulane now gives them the opportunity to go to the American Athletic Conference Championship. They have the possibility of going to the playoffs now. Memphis now losing 2 games in their conference now sets them in the backseat of getting into their conference championship game with this loss against Tulane, and they had that upset against UAB. So Tulane is on the up and up, looking like they have a fighting chance again to make the Group of 5 playoff spot. So Tulane beats Memphis 38-32. Number 5, Georgia. They finally, just like Notre Dame, get that dominant win that they've been needing all season. They have been barely edging out these games, but they're able to destroy Mississippi State 41-42 at Mississippi State. The Cowbells, they needed a lot more cowbells. But Gunnar Stockton now is also looking like a great guy. He doesn't have the swag like Carson Beck, but I like that about this team. I like that Gunnar Stockton doesn't have a swag. He is this silent killer that is here to win the game and come in clutch when it needs to happen. But Georgia, this was the first time where it was like, okay, they are a good team. They are not just this team that squeaks by. They're not just this team that plays to their competition, because that's what they've looked like the whole season. So I think Georgia fans have finally been able to take a deep sigh of relief, saying, okay, we didn't have to worry about this weekend. Let's continue to play like this the rest of the season. But I think that they play Texas next week, so they really needed this game to show that, hey, we have an offense. And then the game that I thought would be on Comedy Central, Florida State loses to Clemson 10-24. Clemson is out here still surviving. Like I said, I don't think Dabo Swinney is going to get fired from Clemson during this season. I think with all the coach firings that are going on right now, Clemson is kind of, if they fired Dabo Swinney, I don't think that they could find anyone else at the moment. I think they might need to bite their tongue, have another season with Dabo, and see where it goes, but tell him like, hey man, like this, you got to do better. It might be a Mike Gundy situation, but we'll see if Clemson can make a bowl game. They're in jeopardy of losing their 20 bowl game streak. So we'll see if that can happen. And then Florida State, let me check my phone and see if another coach got fired, because that would make it the 6th week a coach has gotten fired. As of right now, I don't see any firings. So good on Mike Norvell. I don't know what he's doing over there. Maybe by the end of the episode, he is fired when I'm recording this. But yeah, Clemson beats Florida State. Thought it would be on Comedy Central. But let's get to 2 other ACC games that I just thought were going to be fun. I didn't think that they were going to be this entertaining, because Wake Forest is now bowl eligible and beats Virginia 16-9. Virginia did not play great. They looked dejected, weren't able to get anything going on offense. Wake Forest was able to shut down Chandler Morris. And Virginia, they choked this game away. They choked the opportunity to get a playoff bid because no one thought that they would, I think, at the beginning of the season. So it's very interesting to see how Virginia responds after this, because they still only have 1 loss in their conference. And you may say, well, where's that second loss? Isn't it to NC State? Yes, but that NC State game, week 1 of the college football season, was actually an out-of-conference matchup in their scheduling. I know, weird. I don't know why they did that, but they did. So Virginia sits with 1 loss in their conference, still having the ability to make the ACC championship game, but that conference has a 5-way tie now, which is going to be very exciting to watch going down the stretch. And then another game that was crazy, California beats number 15 Louisville 29-26. This game went into overtime, and Sagapulotele threw a overtime winning touchdown to DeJesus. It may be DeJesus. I don't know, but I woke up this morning and thought that was the funniest headline I have ever read in college football. So it was funny to watch. But yeah, Louisville, they lose another nail. Both of their losses come in overtime, and California looked great. California now goes to a bowl game as well. Louisville now is looking outside of the conference championship race in the ACC, as they now have 2 losses in the conference. And now our second wave of Week 11 notable games. Number 2, Indiana beats Penn State 27-24. This was a nail biter. It came down to the wire. Indiana had a 90-yard touchdown drive with one of the craziest catches I've seen all season in the end zone, barely being able to get his foot in bounds. Surprising enough, the referees actually got this call correct on the field. So good job for the officials in this game. Penn State, they finally showed up and looked like a team that should be here all season. They didn't have the full offensive capabilities, though, and I think that's why they fell short. Their defense played great. Their defense played like they should have the entire season. I don't know why it took them this long to show up, though. And then, you gotta hate it for Auburn fans. You gotta hate it for Auburn fans. They lose in a nail biter of a great overtime game to number 16 Vanderbilt, 45-38. Auburn fans have to, on one hand, be, yes, disappointed that you lost to Vanderbilt, but on the other side, you have to be happy that your offense finally looks legitimate. Your offense finally looks like it's unlocked its potential, especially with your backup quarterback, the transfer from Mississippi State. He honestly looks like a Nick Marshall lookalike, not in physical, but in the way he played, the way he ran. It was something fun to watch. It was electric. This game was overall just fun, and I think that Auburn will continue to trend up, and this Iron Bowl matchup might be a little bit more interesting than we thought after Hugh Freeze got fired. And Wisconsin beats number 23 Wisconsin. Wisconsin beats number 23 Washington, my bad. 13-10. Luke Fickell finally gets a win that may save his job against a top 25 team. This Washington offense is no joke. So congratulations to Wisconsin to being able to limit them so much in their game. So Wisconsin able to beat number 23 Washington 13-10. Now, you may think what's so crazy about this game? Why is this game highlighted? Well, Hawaii beats San Diego State 38-6. And this now is an interesting aspect of the college football season because San Diego State, I felt like, was one of the leaders in conversation to potentially win the Mountain West and get the group of 5 spot for the playoff because they've been playing great all season. They only had one loss until they had to go to Hawaii and lose to the Fighting Hawaiians. And now that brings them to tied with Boise State in the conference right now. And they will actually be playing next week. So if Boise State wins that game, San Diego State could potentially be knocked out of the conference championship in the Mountain West. And then our last game under review is number 4 Alabama beats LSU 22-9. There was something different about this game. It just didn't feel like there were the fireworks there. It didn't feel like this LSU team had as much fight as I thought that they would coming into this game. They felt very dejected. They felt like they were in another world. They didn't feel like they were the LSU of old. I'm curious to see what it would have looked like if Brian Kelly was still coaching in this game. I feel like the game would have been a lot closer than what it was. LSU had to bench Garrett Nussmeier. I honestly don't think he's a great quarterback at all. He should have left for the draft last season. It's looking like one of the worst decisions of the college football season for any player in the country. Alabama didn't look good either. They were able to get this win just by having a better offense and the defense really just showing up. The Alabama kicking got to get better. It's got to get better. That's all I have to say about that. But also had this game up here as notable as under review because I personally enjoyed watching LSU lose, not only as an Alabama fan, but for other reasons as well. But now let's look at our takeaways from the weekend. Depending on how the ACC performs in the playoffs, we could see the discussion of the removal of auto bids if they don't play well. But I doubt that will happen because all of the conferences must have a unanimous vote to change the playoff format. And I don't think that the ACC or Group of Five would allow that to happen. And then talking on the Group of Five, the Group of Five spot, I think, could possibly go to a 2-loss team, as many of the frontrunners for the Group of Five spot keep losing to conference opponents. So I think the door is still wide open for any Group of Five team that has the ability to go to their conference championship game. And after the way Auburn played today, the Iron Bowl just might be an interesting game, as the Auburn Tigers seem to have finally unlocked their full potential of the offense. And then also speaking on the Auburn-Vanderbilt game, I think the Diego Pavia conversation is very much back in stride. He played great, had over 400 total yards himself. Penn State, they showed us that they can play football with some of the best teams in the nation yesterday. But the question I have for Penn State, and a question that many fans will have, is who can wield that power in this coaching search? I think that this is one of the most volatile coaching carousels that could happen, but I also think that there are so many good coaches that are going to stay where they're at that a lot of teams are going to have to take a chance on an up-and-coming name or an offensive or defensive coordinator and not a head coach that is as prominent as some people think. So I'm interested to see where Penn State goes with their coaching search. And then in this game for Indiana, I think Fernando Mendoza, in the grand scheme of the season and the Heisman race, finally had his Heisman moment that people can go and look to with the 90-yard drive to win against Penn State, and the pass in the end zone to win was just absolutely sublime. Chef's kiss. But we've got to talk about someone that's in the hot seat. And this hot seat is sponsored by 38 Hot Tubs. 38 Hot Tubs is family-owned and American-built, supplying Viking hot tubs that feature high-quality material and superior components, ensuring that every aspect of the hot tub is designed to last for years to come. When it comes to relaxation, recovery, and overall well-being, few things compare to the soothing experience of a high-quality hot tub. And for Rob Abel, it's all about helping people improve their health and quality of life. Whether you're an athlete looking for muscle recovery or someone who simply wants to unwind after a long day, soaking in a hot tub can provide numerous benefits. The ideal combination of warm water and hydrotherapy jets can ease tension, lower cortisol levels to help combat anxiety. A hot tub even promotes better blood flow, which leads to better muscle recovery, reduced soreness, and improved flexibility, combined with overall cardiovascular health improvements. Even a nice time soak can improve sleep quality by relaxing the body and mind before bed. So if you're interested in experiencing the therapeutic benefits of a Viking spa, reach out to Rob Abel today. If you mention this ad to Rob, your journey to relaxation and wellness starts with a $200 discount off one spa and $600 for an order of two. 38 Hot Tubs. Whether you're looking for relief from sore muscles, a way to enhance your fitness routine, or simply a place to relax with friends and family, Rob is here to help you find the perfect hot tub to fit your needs. And our 38 Hot Tub hot seat is going to Mike Norvell after his loss at Clemson. Completely bad. He's turned into a joke. He needs to get out of here. He needs to get out of there. And then Wake Forest head coach Jake Dickert, I think, could be a up-and-coming coach that gets poached by a bigger program, because what he has been able to do at Wake Forest after just 1 year is great. He already has them bowl eligible. He took Georgia Tech down to the wire. If Robbie Ashford didn't have to leave for about a drive or two, I think they could have won that game. And they were able to beat Virginia, who was leading the conference. So overall, great job for them. And then our closing categories. The good, I personally am giving the good to Jaden Mayava because they were playing Northwestern and he threw a pick, and the big defensive tackle was running down to get a pick six, and Mayava lowered the shoulder, forced him to fumble, went out of the end zone, touchback, saved his own pick six, and that's something good. That is a good play, a bad play that turned into a good play by a quarterback. But the fact that he was willing to lay down the shoulder and put everything he had to preventing that just was the good. He was a good player in that situation. He didn't just give up on the play. So the good, Jaden Mayava, actually showing some grit out there in Southern California. And then the bad, the Alabama versus LSU rivalry might be dead. The next 4 years, Alabama doesn't have LSU as one of their 3 secured rivals. That goes to Tennessee, Auburn, and Mississippi State. So I think we're possibly going to see the kind of rivalry kind of fizzle out. This game especially, it just felt like there wasn't anything great. It wasn't grandiose. It wasn't this fight that we seem to have every year. This year and last year, it just did not feel like LSU was even in the game. So I think that the rivalry might be dead for about 20 years, in my opinion. This was one of the most heated, exciting, and just crazy rivalries in the Southeastern Conference, but I think it is slowly fizzling out. And then the ugly, it's going to Wisconsin and their passing stats against Washington. I mean, their punter had the most passing yards of anyone on the team in that game with 24, going 1 for 1. Just completely, they won the game, so it's not bad. It's just ugly the way that they won that game. And our player of the week, who's it going to, you may think? Well, it is going to Diego Pavie. He was able to get 25 for 33 on his pass attempts. He had 377 pass yards, 112 rush yards, 4 touchdowns on the game, 3 in the air, 1 on the ground. He is our player of the week. Dominant performance, really just led his team to beat Auburn in overtime, and it was great. And speaking of this Auburn-Vanderbilt Week 11 game, we're putting it in the Under Review College Football 2025 archives. So Auburn and Vanderbilt Week 11, we're putting it in the nomination list to go in our archives. And we've got that on screen if you're watching on YouTube. These are the current games that we have nominated. There's a couple of more spots left. The nominations are subject to change if we feel as if one game at the end of the season was lesser than what we thought it was, but we will be continuing to keep you updated on that. So that wraps up our Week 11 recap. Thursday's preview episode, we will be taking a look at Oklahoma at Alabama, Notre Dame at Pitt, Texas at Georgia, and Boise State at San Diego State. We got some big hitters next week. Finally, the last 2 weeks, it's been a little soft, but the upsets have been plentiful. I'm Nick Watts. Thank all of you for tuning in to this episode, and we'll see you next time when we take more college football under review.